Welcome guys. So we'll be making this cap and I'll be explaining to you how to get the inner measurement of the cap. The inner measurement of the cap is actually your head measurement. So if the inner measurement and your head measurement are of the same size, then the cap will fit perfectly.
Our first task is to impute the head measurement of two different positions. And after getting both mark positions, you will join both mark points with a short line. So you use a ruler to straighten out the line. So to get our perfect head size on the inner circumference of the cap, we'll be applying gum on opposite end. We'll be making sure the gum doesn't cross the line of our head size we took initially. And when attaching both pieces together, we'll also be making sure it doesn't cross that line. And that's how to get the inner circumference.
Since our head size is 19 inches, we'll be cutting the cap material to 21 inches. 21 inches in the sense that you need excesses should in case there is a need for you to increase the measurement of the cap for one reason or the other. You should always leave space for increment. Now for the height of the cap, for our cardboard was 2 1/4 inches. So you'll be cutting the cap height in a way that you make the excesses at least ½ inch on both sides. So you can make use of your discretion on that. For this, I can decide to cut 5 inches, which I have done here. But you can decide to cut 4. Interface is added to both sides of the cap material because we'll be doing a lot of stretching when we start fixing the cardboard inside the cap material. Next thing will be to sew the cap material on the 19 inches measurement. In fixing the cardboard inside the cap material, the first thing you must consider is the finished part of the cap material. The finished part of the cap material is the part of the cap material that doesn't lose. Just make sure you are passing the cardboard material through that part of the cap material. That means through the finished part of the cap material, because you don't want your cap material to start losing when you're trying to fix it inside. Then while fixing it, you must make sure you follow the line designs on the cap material. So I'll be trimming 1 inch off the height of our cap material. So as you can see, the 1 inch I'm trimming, the only part of the cap material I won't touch would be the sewing line. So the sewing line will not be touched. So as you can see now, what will be folded on both sides is not that big anymore. After applying gum, we'll begin the process of joining the cap material to the shoe cardboard paper. And you'll be doing that by following the line design on the cap material. The cap material have straight line designs. You just make sure you follow a particular line. If you have any question or complaint thus far, you can go to the comment section and let it be known. I'll be very glad to answer you. So we've succeeded in bending one part, so we'll turn to the other part, add gum and do the same. After adding the gum, we'll start the bending process. So while doing the bending process, we'll not just focus on the bending process, we'll also focus on the design on the cap material. The design on the cap material is a line design. So you just have to make sure that whatever you are bending is of something sort of a straight line bending. So you just make sure you keep following a particular line from the beginning of your bending to the end of your bending. So after doing that, you just make sure every single part is firmly attached. So you use your hands to rub and rub all through. We'll use the circumference of the cap to cut out our ½ inch foam. Our ½ inch foam we are cutting out will be 1.5 inch wider than the circumference of the cap. And what we'll be cutting out will also be used later in the course of the work. The cap material isn't wide enough, so we'll be adding fabric to it. And we are doing that because the ½ inch foam we cut out for the top of the cap is wider than the initial size of the cap material. So we'll be adding fabric and using our pressing iron to straighten it. So after straightening things with the pressing iron, we'll be adding gum to our ½ inch foam and attaching it to the cap material. So after applying gum all through, we'll be going straight to the attaching of the ½ inch foam to the cap material.
and you will make sure you're arranging it in a way that the lines on the cap material are well aligned. So as you can see, we've trimmed the cap material to the shape of the 1/2 inch foam. To get the shape of the aluminium net we'll be using, we'll first of all use the top of the cap to cut out the paper, and for this we use the carton paper. Then we'll be using that carton paper to cut out the exact shape on the aluminium net, and after doing that we'll reduce by 1 inch or after cutting the aluminium net. So you can see we've applied gum on the other side of the foam, so we'll be attaching the aluminium to the other side of the foam. If you look very well, you will see that the aluminium net is 1 inch shorter in length compared to the size of the top of the cap. The size of the aluminium net was reduced by 1 inch all through. So we'll just put all our hands on deck and make sure the aluminium net is well attached. So I told you earlier we'll be using this part of the cutout of the foam. So we've applied gum to it and we are attaching it to the edge of the aluminium net all through. The edge of the aluminium net is very sharp and can be very harmful. Since we will be doing a lot of caressing when we are inserting the top of the cap, we need it all covered. The top of the cap is ready. We'll be inserting the top of the cap into the body of the cap, and before we do that, you can see we've already applied gum to the upper part of the body of the cap. So we'll be inserting the top through the bottom of the body of the cap. We'll be doing that gently in a way that we want to get the shape of the top. And after getting the shape, every other thing we'll be doing will just be to make sure there is solid contact between the top and the body of the cap at all points. So we've succeeded in applying gum all through inside the cap. So the next thing to do will be to insert our lining, and after inserting the lining we'll put a lot of correction into it and make sure every part of the lining is attached to every side of the cap. Then after doing this, we'll reduce the size of the lining to the edge of the cap. Then after reducing to the edge of the cap, we'll then reduce by 1/2 or 1 inch before we'll start inserting our 1 inch rubber on the edge of the cap.
So after packaging, this is ready for delivery. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Thank